Welcome to Inside the Chamber. I'm Nikki Anderson, the President and CEO of the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce. Today our show will focus on setting and keeping your resolutions. We know that setting them is the easy part. It's maintaining them that makes it tough. My guest today will help us understand why resolutions don't work and how we can make 2018 our best year ever.
Inside the Chamber is brought to you by presenting sponsor, Naperville Bank and Trust.
Thank you all so much for being here. This actually is one of my favorite topics to talk about, goals, resolutions. So I guess my first question, just for fun, is do you guys set resolutions? Dr. Pinto, do you?
You know, I used to set resolutions, and then I kind of realized that my future self is going to have the same amount of time and be as lazy as my present self. So I probably don't do that anymore. I try to set goals.
Awesome. Josh?
Sure, yeah. My family, I've got 3 young boys, and New Year's Day we sit down, we keep a journal, and we write down what we want to do for the next year, and then we go. But we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and we've been a lot of failures. So we can talk later on how we decided to revise and measure those things, but we do every year. Sure.
All right, I love that, Coach.
Yeah, for me, it's more goals than resolutions. Right, looking ahead for the year, thinking about what I want to accomplish, and then setting a goal and a plan in place to make it happen.
And don't you feel like goals have more wiggle room? Like, you can kind of go back and adjust them, where resolutions seem so finite. Like you either do it or you're a failure, right?
It's interesting. I thought about that before coming in here, and I thought of resolutions as goals, things I want to do better, but I think in some aspect it's kind of a negative thing. Like I want to stop doing this thing, right?
Right.
People want to stop smoking or eating poorly, or I guess those things you don't really have to write those. You just have to stop doing them, right? Whereas goals, I guess you have to write down those action activities to get to that goal, right? So
I don't know. I kind of love what you said, that we tend to say I'm going to stop versus I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start being more, consistent with exercise, or I'm going to start being more consistent with money management, or sustaining whatever it is that I set forth for myself. So that's kind of an interesting.
I think a lot of times we set sort of unrealistic expectations or resolutions. Like I always say to people, if you want to get healthier, which I think is a lot of people's New Year's resolutions, why do you have to wait till January 1st? Why not start it now and kind of break it down into something that's measurable and something that's realistic? I once had somebody say, my resolution is I'm going to lose 25 pounds this month. And I said to her, you could go on Naked and Afraid and you would not lose 25 pounds. That's unrealistic. You're going to fail. Yeah. But why not say, maybe I'll lose 3 pounds. Right. And this is what I'll do. I'll work out. I'll, eat healthier. I think then our resolutions are much more achievable.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So. Go ahead.
I agree with that. I think the thing in the fitness industry I see all the time is the big goal, like you say, but then there's no milestones that are set. And I think that's one of the reasons I like the term goal better than resolution, is that it implies planning and detailing out what are the specific actions that you're going to take in order to meet these goals, and you can put in milestones, which is often helpful.
And you can modify them as they're working, as they're realistic, and change them so that you are successful. Because I think we're much more likely to continue on a path if we are seeing some gains and some success.
So I think what I'm hearing you guys say is don't eat the whole elephant. Eat it one bite at a time, right?
Yes. However, I'm a big believer in big dreams. And while I do think that a lot of people set resolutions that are, so big and then they don't know how to get there, I do think that it builds the passion as to why you really want to do it. So I really encourage athletes to set big goals and set big dreams, because it lights you up and fires you bigger than small incremental dreams do, and then chart out the path to make those big dreams happen.
Gotcha. So Josh, I'm intrigued about what you and your boys do, and kind of what was the genesis of that? What started you guys sitting down and doing, and what have you learned from, or what have the boys learned from the failures?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun family activity, first of all, just to write these things down. The last couple of years, I mean, I've got an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a kindergartner, and some of it's like, I want to be a better friend to so-and-so. And that's great. And then we look back at that and we say, well, have you been a better friend? And we had nothing to measure that by, right?
Gotcha.
Or my sixth grader, he's the kid that orders a double bacon cheeseburger, but he's a beanpole. But I said, you can't eat like that, and so he's going to eat better. So we looked back last year and said, did you eat better? Well, we didn't have any kind of measure of how to do that. So this year if anyone's been kind of in a corporate world, I'm not really, but we've all heard about SMART goals, right? And see if I can rattle these off on TV. We want it to be specific. You have to measure it. Is it achievable? Like you said, I want to lose 50 pounds. Was that even achievable over the next year?
Right.
What's the R?
Realistic.
Realistic, right? And timely. There's got to be a timeline on those things. So, for myself, I set a goal this year of, I read all the time for my work, and I want to read for pleasure, and I want to read 4 books that have nothing to do with my business, and I put timelines on when I need to get those 4 books read. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Pinto, I'm going to start with you. What advice do you give to people? You sort of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but if someone sits down and says, this is something I really want to do, what kind of advice do you give them?
Yeah, let's take the goal or the resolution of being healthier. So I think it's always important to have a why. So what's the payoff for being healthier? I think it's much easier to work towards, something like that. And then, going with what you said with the SMART goals is kind of breaking them down. What specifically can you do, whether it's every day, every week, every month, and have some accountability, whether it's you're doing this with a friend or you're going to Weight Watchers and you get weighed in, and celebrate your successes and also reevaluate the why, because I think that's what helps you, moving forward. And again, we're all a work in progress. Be kind to yourself. And
that's good advice. Something that I want to ask you all, whether it's money or fitness, is that, do you think sometimes people set certain goals or resolutions because they think they're supposed to, versus you had mentioned about the why, why do you want to do it? So let's look at money. I need to save more money. Okay, in theory that's great, but do you really want to do it, or do you just think you're supposed to do it?
Right. Typically, and we're playing for long-term financial goals, typically retirement, and I get people say, I need $5 million someday. And they don't know why. They don't know what that means, but maybe they've heard that. I need $3 million. I saw it on so, we back into that, and everyone has this long-term goal of, I don't want to work full-time forever. I need this dollar amount someday. And that's really a factor of what is your standard of living. It's not a hard, it's a simple algebra equation. I've got X today. I've got this much time. I need this to achieve this standard of living. What do I need to do every month, every year to achieve that goal? And let's reevaluate that every year to make sure that we're on track to achieve that goal someday.
Great. What advice do you give your athletes?
To really understand why, back to this, in our team environment, and we have a running group and triathlon group, it's very common to go after somebody else's goal.
Right.
Because you see somebody else do a 10K or a 5K race or a marathon, and all of a sudden you decide that you have to do it or you should do it in order to be accepted. I hear that all the time too. So I often talk with the athletes and just get into, why do you really want to have this? What fits your lifestyle? What's your family situation and your current fitness? And let's set something that's appropriate and realistic for you, given the time frame that's going on, and we'll achieve it better in that case.
Great. So Josh, money and fitness, which is obviously why you're here, and you kind of give the science or the mental perspective behind it. But when it comes to money, I think now more than ever, people, it's like the scarcity mentality versus the abundance mentality. So what advice do you typically give to people who are like, I need to figure out how to make sure that I'm not 75 and broke.
Yeah, that's the fear. You know, when I meet with people, what's their biggest fear? Running out of money someday. Everyone's living forever, and which is a good and a bad thing.
Right.
And these are not attractive things to think about. What I pound budget. We have to get on a budget. And it's kind of like fitness.
Yeah.
I don't want to write these things down. I just want to get there someday, and I'll just throw a bunch of money at it and we'll see what happens. And today, the technology out there's a lot of different financial tools. I recommend my clients use a program called Mint.com, and it really can track what you're doing on a daily, monthly, and you can set budgets for different categories. But the earlier somebody can go through kind of that painful process, and it can be painful if you've never done it before, the more it becomes natural, and the more you'll find out, I have this extra money, or this, now I know what my standard of living is, and now I can plan to retire and buy a boat someday, or those kind of goals can come into the planning for it.
Awesome.
So I would say budgeting and watching your pennies, not your dollars, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned something I think that is important, and that is writing it down. Do you think there's a greater success rate with people that
Absolutely.
write it down and have it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
What's the psychology behind that, Dr. Pinto?
Well, I think there's more accountability.
Yeah.
Like if you think, gee, I really want that bag of chips, but I have to write it down, and it's there in black and white, and I can't fool myself, because I think a lot of times, we use denial and rationalizations. And, in terms of saving money, I always encourage people, this is something that's really worked for me, is, have it taken out automatically out of your account. Because again, we're back to, we always think our future self is going to be much more motivated and have more time than our present self. So I know when I put money towards my taxes or my IRA, I just have it taken out there so I don't have to.
Right. And we're trying to create habits, right?
myself.
Just like you do.
Right.
Trying to create these habits. And
Absolutely.
What do they say? How long does it take for a habit to become?
Like 14 days until you break it or something.
Yeah.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I don't
And
know.
accountability in our world is really big, and
Right.
that's why people hire us, I think,
Right.
because it's hard to be accountable to yourself, especially in a health and fitness and nutrition way.
Right.
So it's much easier to make the commitment to a professional and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sign up, and I'm going to go after this, and then I know you're going to watch the dial every day as I log in and write my workouts down.
Right.
And so I think the writing it down, accountability, all comes together.
I think along with that, a
Very
lot of people do
nicely.
have accountability partners. Sometimes maybe, let's set this goal together and we keep each other accountable. I think that's a powerful thing too.
Well, and that's probably the group mentality, is that, well, I got to show up, because if I'm not there, they'll know I'm not there, and they'll give me a hard time next time they see me.
And
Right.
we have like goals, so I mean,
Sure.
you're with people that you like and that share the same passion and dreams, so that all works to that group environment.
But I would say all three of you are accountability factors. I mean, from a therapy perspective, and Josh from a money perspective, and
Yes.
Joe from a health and wellness perspective. I mean, you're all in the world of keeping people accountable, and we're going to talk more about that. But we'll be right back.
Naperville Bank and Trust has the expertise, knowledge, and experience to help you reach your business goals.
We would prefer to work with somebody like Naperville Bank and Trust. They're engaged in the community, they're able to help meet our financial needs, they understand us as a business.
They provide all the tools that you would ask that we as a growing business need of a bank. Most importantly, to me, it's a great personal relationship we have with Tom and John and our bankers.
It was the best thing we could have done in banking. And banking can be very cold. What the bank brings to us is that warm feeling when you come into the bank and people say, "Hi, Greg."
It's about being part of the community again, about being a name again, about having credit for who your business is instead of just being a number.
Naperville Bank and Trust. Bring it home.
I think is interesting is accountability. I know accountability is different for everyone. For me, personally, I was trying to hold myself accountable for being active, and then I realized, maybe there is something to this accountability and why you and I work together and what a difference that makes. But also, if you feel like you've let someone down or you're not following through with the advice that was given to them, there's also that side of the equation. So how do you guys handle that with your patients, with your clients, and with your athletes? How do you guys handle that?
Well, I know with my patients, I say this is a joint process. So I think sometimes people come in and they want me to tell them what I think they should do in order to not be depressed or to be happy. And I always tell them, this is a joint process. You sort of tell me where you want to be, and then we'll talk about what's realistic and not realistic. And I always encourage people, you're not going to be 100%, but let's at least start with some goals that the likelihood of being 100% is pretty good. And then you just build on these small goals. And then I think as people have success, they're more engaged and feel better about the process, and they get caught up in the process instead of the goal,
the end goal. Yeah, Josh, what do you think, like from a money perspective, with your clients?
Yeah, I think I'm a believer that, unfortunately, we're talking about change, right?
Yeah,
and for people to change, I think they have to be dissatisfied with their current situation, whether it's their finance, their health, their mental health, or attitude. And I don't know if I can get them there, right? They really need to be. I can't cause them to be dissatisfied, but at some point, there's an uncertainty of, am I doing the right thing? Should I have some accountability? And it's kind of a hard process to get there and that acceptance. But certainly, I do look at myself kind of like what Joe is. I'm a coach. I keep people accountable, and I think it makes a world of a difference. And in my life, if I want to achieve a goal, I think not just myself, but having other people kind of invested in my success really helps me to be accountable to my goals as well.
Yeah.
Good. I think with my athletes, knowing that much of what we do from our perspective is very personal. It's how we feel about ourselves in the mirror and our personal accomplishments. And so there's ego involved from a positive standpoint. And so usually if somebody has said that they want to be accountable and they've hired us and then they're falling off of plan and not doing it, I usually back up and say, why are we here? Right? What is it that you really want? How passionate are you about this goal that you told me you wanted? Right? Is it a big enough desire? Because oftentimes that's really the issue, is that it was somebody else's goal, their friend did it, or they're just not that committed to it. They've got some other priorities in their life, and it could be their family and their kids and things like that, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
So usually that's why I come back to, okay, do we have the right goal for you? Maybe we need to reset.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that will be enough to get the person back on track.
And so kind of bringing it back to the whole resolution idea, would you all agree that resolutions is somewhat of accountability, whether it's personal or if you've made it with someone else, and not reaching it is simply because it wasn't something that you wanted enough, or that was maybe someone else's resolution and not something,
I think your desire, and as well as, having a goal or resolution, if you're like kind of going back and if you're not writing down what those actionable activities are to get to that goal, then I think your probability of success is extremely
you gotta have
low.
a plan.
Interesting. So let's talk about failure. We've all failed. At least I have, I know, sadly. But let's talk a little bit about the impact of failure when resolutions don't happen, because I do find it interesting that every year people set resolutions, and we know that like only 1% of the population actually keeps them. What kind of effect do you think?
Well, of course, I would never use failure with my patients.
Thank you for that.
Lack of setbacks.
Right, setbacks, rebooting, readjusting. So, I think that when people are not successful, it's because their why isn't very clear or it's not realistic. And I think it goes back to, okay, if you weren't able to do this, let's kind of look at it. Were your steps too big? Did you not have enough accountability? Were they just completely unrealistic? And find a way to be find a way to be successful. So I don't think there's any failure. We're all a work in progress. You know, what do they say? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, and staying away from the pass fail, I think encourages people to continue to set goals.
Okay. All right, hence why every year they set
Right,
them again.
right.
Well, I know I just think personally for myself, when I meet a goal, like I'm so proud of it. So conversely, when you don't meet it, like is it...
It's defeating.
You know, right?
Yeah.
It's
where you don't want to set
defeating.
another goal because you're afraid you're not going to be able to achieve it. Right?
For us, we look at that failure as an opportunity to really learn and improve. Our sports, just by definition, every day you can't win the gold medal. So somebody has got to be ahead of you. And so for us, we like to turn it into more of a positive goal setting, reaffirming like what didn't work here, what do we got to do better. And so actually sometimes the times that we succeed the most are the times when we actually fail in our sports. So we look at that
and
as
I think
a
there are
real
things we
opportunity
can all
to move
learn
forward.
about ourselves in not succeeding every time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is probably great advice, right? This isn't a failure. This is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity
to really
to
take
improve.
a look. And
It really is.
yeah. So I could talk about this topic all day. I'm very passionate about goal setting. It's something that's important to me. But for viewers that are watching this show and perhaps have set resolutions and maybe they had a setback and it didn't work out for them, I'd like to start with you, Dr. Pinto. What would you tell them moving forward? Obviously, I think what you mentioned earlier is you don't have to wait to January to set a new
Right, there's
goal.
nothing like the present. If you're
Yeah.
really motivated to do something, you know, start it today, but break it down into small pieces, have some accountability, and make sure that you front load it with success. And, you know, it's okay to, you know, give yourself, you know, a reward for achieving your goal. I think it's so much easier to work towards something versus working away from something.
Great. So, Josh, money, right? That's a big one for people. There's things that they want. What would you suggest for them?
I guess the cliche in my business: never too late to start planning, never too late to start saving. You know, there's kind of a defeatist attitude that I'm behind already, and there's, you know, I can't catch up. I just say don't give up. You know, it's never too late. You know, start planning now, and you know, certainly you're going to see those rewards later if you. But as far as resolutions go, you know, if they're partway through the year, you know, look at your goals again and reevaluate. And my biggest advice: just don't give up. I mean, the tendency is like, I couldn't achieve this, I'm going to give up. Don't give up. Start over.
Right. And I have just kind of a question about money. You know, we have this thing called social media, where sadly we see, you know, this abundance of wealth.
Yep.
That's what the perception
Right.
is. How do you talk with your clients about that?
It's a terrible thing, right? Everyone's rich on Facebook,
Yeah.
right? And I, you know, you just remind people, you know, you never know. You never know what is you know, in somebody's bank account. In our society, it could be fake, it could be real. Do not compare yourself to, you know, what you're seeing in the world and the things that people have. You know, create your own goals and visualize what you want to have someday and what kind of lifestyle you have. But it's certainly a difficult thing, right? Because I may meet with my clients 4 times a year, but they're, you know, looking at social media all day long, right? And getting this other picture, which is
Everything's perfect in the world of social media,
right?
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's the one money tip that you might give somebody aside from working with a professional like you?
I would go back to what I stated before. Use some kind of financial software that tracks.
Mint.com is that?
Yeah, there's a bunch. That's my favorite. Mint.com is what I encourage my clients to use. And I don't care, you know, budgeting is not just for people who have low incomes. I mean, everyone should have a budget and know what their standard of living is. And, you know, in the old days, you wrote it down on a piece of paper, but there's some great tools out there. That would be my best advice, is to enter these things on some kind of financial planning software and get an idea of, you know, what your lifestyle is, what you're spending your money on. You might find you're spending some money on some things that you don't need, or maybe you have some extra money that you didn't know. So that's my best tip, I would say.
And you bring up a great point about awareness. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I would think that maybe that even plays in a little bit to our resolutions, you know, too, is instead of just setting something because it sounds good, be aware of maybe where your struggles are, so that you can better understand yourself. Interesting.
Exactly.
Thank you. Coach?
Dream big, really big. Start small.
Yeah.
be patient, make it a lifestyle.
Right.
Fitness doesn't build overnight.
Yeah.
I see way too many people go out just too hard, too quick, and then it hurts too much, and they stop.
Yeah.
And if they just slowed down and did jog walk instead of trying to run a mile at the fastest pace they did when they were in high school,
Right.
they would have much more longer term success.
Yeah.
And the big dream keeps you going multiple years rather than getting stuck in the resolution.
So if someone's out there going, yeah, I know I need to do something, I know exercise matters, what might be, again, other than working with you, what might be one tip that you would give them?
Good question. Again, I think start out slower than you really think that you should. I think that's the biggest thing that I see and talk to people about is they just started out with just so much excitement.
Right.
It's January 1st, and they opened up the door, they went out, and they crushed themselves.
Yeah.
And now it's January 2nd, and they're not motivated to go do that again.
Right.
So make your workouts on the easier side so that you're excited to come back the next day and the next day and build that positive, good feeling rather than that's, I'm so sore I can't move.
Right. It's sort of like the run, bike, swim mentality. Don't go out of there like a bat out of, you know where, right?
We talk about it in our world. Start slow and build into the race, right?
Right,
When the
right.
gun goes, don't go off like crazy. Just let
Yeah.
everybody go, and then know that you're going to be the one that finishes strong.
Great. Dr. Pinto, one tip maybe if someone's thinking about, maybe they're thinking about working with a therapist because they want to change their job or, maybe they're in a bad relationship. What might be one tip to kind of move them into doing something really great for themselves?
I think just figuring out why and what you think it's going to look like. I think sometimes people feel like everything in my life would be great if I just had this one situation, taken care of. But obviously, we're so much more than the worst experience in our life. So
That's great. That's great. So resolutions start small. Make them do smart goals, right? Go back and revisit, and there isn't failure, there's just setbacks, right? Thank you all so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us for Inside the Chamber. We hope you found the information in today's program valuable. Please join us again for our monthly programs, and in the meantime, remember, when you're looking to shop or dine, think Chamber, and visit naperville.net to support the Chamber of Commerce and our business community.